I'm going to give Mark a list of the websites here, all the websites I've used throughout the entire presentation, 3 pages of them. So I'll give them to him. I think he's going to email them to you at the end of the conference. And so it's easier if he emails it, then you can just click on the link and it's easier for you. But just having a quick look. So these are websites for IELTS descriptors. So these are the public versions. But the real versions for the IELTS examiners are very similar, extremely similar. They've just paraphrased them. So you can just click on those. And then I think that Simon IELTS, the Simon IELTS website is really, really fantastic. A lot of my students have used it and it's really great. It goes through the 4 skills, listening, speaking, reading, writing, and it's really great. And then other websites, IELTS websites are here. I'm not going to go into them further because they'll all be on this. Great. Okay, so this presentation is on improving pronunciation. Excuse me, Mark.
Yep. You need the video.
No, it's just...
It just froze. Is it?
Oh, it's working okay. It's not on the computer.
Not on the computer.
Oh, I see. It's not working on the computer. Yeah. Can you minimize? I don't know whether the other... Thank you. So in this presentation we're talking about pronunciation. So here's just a basic outline of what we'll be doing. So talking about improving pronunciation, some proven techniques, the International Phonemic Alphabet, the IPA, which you may be familiar with. We'll be doing a bit more on how to read it and how to get the most out of that. Some difficulties for Farsi speakers. So this will be directly, hopefully, helping your students. Some other phonological features. These phonological features are ones that IELTS examiners have to use to assess pronunciation. And some activities, sound differentiation, word stress, and some online resources. So first of all, improving pronunciation. So why is it so important? It's extremely important because intelligibility is important in communication. So if you are just learning a language, you need some vocabulary. You need some basic vocabulary. If your grammar is really bad, you can still understand with a few vocabulary words. However, if your pronunciation is so bad that the person cannot understand what you're saying, you have no communication. So it's really, really important. On the other hand, you could have great vocabulary, great grammar, great fluency, but if the person you're talking to can't understand you because your pronunciation is so bad, well then you've lost the communication. So it is really, really important. So it's important to focus on pronunciation early in a learner's knowledge of a new language. Because if somebody has been ignoring pronunciation, say for many years, maybe some of my Chinese students have been learning English for 10 years, and they come to Monash, but their pronunciation is so bad that we just can't understand them. I think Amir will attest to that. And they come up to the front, they try to tell you something, and I'm very used to different languages, and I've been learning Chinese for 2 years, but sometimes I just cannot understand them because their pronunciation is so bad. And what happens if you have been learning a language for a long time and you don't focus on pronunciation, you get what they call fossilization. A little example in Farsi would be the word sound. So work, will, want, and Farsi speakers tend to have difficulty with the word sound, and they'd say verb, I will, I want. And so If your students have this particular problem and other particular problems that Farsi speakers have, it's a very good idea to try and address that problem early in the learning period of the speaker. Otherwise, as I said, those mistakes become fossilised, and it's very, very difficult once somebody has a good knowledge of the language, good vocabulary, grammar, fluent, to get rid of those pronunciation problems. In IELTS, the IELTS speaking test, pronunciation is the fourth criterion. So, as I said, you could have great fluency, great vocab, great grammar. Your pronunciation's bad. That section, that criterion can go down to 5. So, pronunciation has a lot to do with intelligibility, understanding what the speaker is saying. So, it's very, very important to focus on that. I have 2 stories from successful candidates. As you know, I've been an IELTS examiner for 10 years, so I've heard lots and lots of candidates from a lot of different countries. And one story is a true story. It's about an Iranian man from Tehran. And when I finished examining him, he got an 8 for each criterion. I thought, wow, this is amazing. And for very high achievers, sometimes when I switch the recorder off, I'm very curious myself, because I'm also a teacher as well as an examiner. And I asked him, how did you improve your pronunciation? Because his pronunciation was really good. And he said, well, and he'd never been outside Iran. He'd only been in Australia for about 3 weeks. So I was really quite surprised at how he had managed to improve his fluency and his pronunciation. And he said, oh, I used to walk around the streets of Tehran speaking to myself. And he wasn't mad. So he just talked to himself. And I thought, that's amazing. That's really fantastic that he would just in his head be inventing sentences and speaking in English to try and improve the fluency. And then if he couldn't think of a word, he'd go home, he'd look up the word. Or if he wasn't sure of the grammatical structure, he'd go home and check that. Or pronunciation, he'd check. So he was really a very keen learner, and he just improved the fluency and the pronunciation in that way. I think my husband said also, when he was trying to learn German, he used to walk around speaking German. Am I right? So it's a good technique. So, you can tell your students to do this, to try and actively, if they don't have a lot of people to speak English to talk to themselves. The other story I'd like to mention is with other high-scoring candidates. At the end, I often, when I turn the recorder off, I ask them, how did you improve your pronunciation? And a lot of them have said to me that they listen. They really listen to people. They focus on what people are saying. And if there's, for example, if they've been saying, oh, I work, I will, then they'd focus, oh, the native English speaker is saying, I work. Okay, fine. So then they focus on that sound. They listen and they focus. And I thought that was amazing. So listening is really, really important, to listen attentively to speakers of English or to teachers, telling them to listen to you carefully to how you pronounce the words, and if they're mispronouncing something or something's a new word, to really try and learn that. There are also a lot of online sites that you can go to practice pronunciation and to improve it. So, as I said, the 2 proven techniques. So, listening and copying native speakers. So, if you don't have a lot of native speakers, as Mark said to me that you don't have a lot of native speakers here, then you can go on to online programs, which are really fantastic. And I've got the links on this at the end, so you can just go to the links. We did one yesterday with the BTN, which is geared for secondary students. Also other fantastic programs, as I mentioned yesterday, and they're all here, like Catalyst and news stories that are very, very interesting. And students can play the program, and if they just didn't understand and couldn't get the pronunciation, replay till they've got it. So they can hear a native speaker on these online news programs, which is great. They didn't have this 10, 20 years ago. So I think the resources available today are really fabulous, and you should tell the students to use them. So, as I said, playing, copying the speaker, repeat. Play, copy, repeat. and taking constant note to improve, one sound or feature at a time. Like as I said, you might take the whoop sound. Okay, this week I'm really going to focus on the whoop sound. So I tell my students sometimes to just invent a little story on their way home from uni. And with the Chinese, they have a lot of problems with the sound, as I think Farsi speakers also have this problem. So I say to them to think of a little story just walking home and there is the bus stop, this is the red car, these are the girls in uniform, those are the boys in suits. Just a silly story, trying to use those particular sounds. So just to try and practice them, really focus on those sounds. Another idea, a very good idea, is to record yourself. So, to talk about a topic for 2 minutes. So this is also an IELTS activity that we were talking about in the last session. And then to play it back, and also to focus on pronunciation. So if you're listening to yourself, or a friend is listening to you, and if you keep saying, okay, will, want, and those sounds, or the TH sound, saying I think instead of I think, and tense, and all this, then you're hearing it, and then, oh right, I've really got to focus on that. So then you play it again, and this time recording yourself, really focusing on those particular sounds. I think it's a good idea just to take one sound at a time. Because if I say, oh, improve all your pronunciation areas, it's too much, you can't do that. But if you just take one sound a week, and then slowly try and improve on those sounds. So as I said, in an IELTS test, it's a 4th criterion, and you really do need to get a high score for pronunciation in order to get what you want. Okay, I was going to do this activity, it might be a bit noisy. I just thought to practice might be just a good idea. If you have mobile phones with you, if you can just record just for 30 seconds your last weekend, or something about novels. Just 30 seconds, put the recorder on and record yourself. I'll give you a minute to do that.
Last week I traveled to Tehran for a couple of things I had to do in Tehran. So after I did all the things what I was supposed to do, I came back here, and then I was invited for dinner over in my in-laws. I joined them for dinner, and then I headed home.
Finished. And I didn't really notice any mispronunciations, did you?
Fantastic.
Yeah,
A little bit but that's okay.
Yeah, but it was okay.
But no, the pronunciation
No,
was
no,
good.
no
Very good.
pronunciation.
Yes. And then the partner would say, if he noticed you saying, say, for example, verk or something like that, he would say, oh, focus on the word sound. So it was pretty good. Yeah, thank you.
So shall I go now? Well, let's start. But last week I didn't do much. I just relaxed at home. I had my lunch, and then I played some computer games. You know, there's this game I really like. It's called Football Manager. I played it for several hours. Then I watched a couple of movies and went out with my friends for a short walk.
No mistake, no hesitation.
Okay. Thank you. You're welcome. All of it.
Phonetics
IPA chart. There is also an American IPA chart, which is slightly different. Not many sounds, but the sound, I think they say R, but that's a little bit different. But Australian English are closer to British English. So we have the chart, and I'll leave this with you later and put it up on the walls. Okay, so it's important to be familiar with it. So there are many online programs where you can just click on the sounds to hear the sounds. So I'll just try and get that up. Okay, so I've just clicked on the link at the bottom of the page of the previous slide, the page. So just clicked on that link down there, which is a Macmillan site, but you can get this on many different sites. And if you just watch, I'll click on the various sounds. So I've just clicked on this link. Focus a little bit. Yeah, okay, so how to read the IPA chart apart from the sounds, which are excellent. You can go to the sites, lots of different sites. If you just put into Google IPA chart, it'll come up with Macmillan, and I think British Council has one. Many different organisations have it with the sounds. So, looking at it more closely, if we look at and this is just this section we're looking at now, the vowel sounds. So there are 5 vowels, they're A, E, I, O, U, but there are 12 vowel sounds, okay, which are different. So if we look at it, that we hold our hands on our cheeks like this, so we're going across. So we're going to go across and say these sounds like E, okay, and the second line, looking at the second line here, so we have again, going in, form a kiss. At the end. Okay, the last line, looking at the last line now. The hands going in. So starting with a smile, E, and then the last one, E. So they're going E. So that's one way to read the chart, which is just the top section, as I said. So going across with the hands. Okay, another way to read E, so the mouth is widening and the chin's going down. So we're doing it with all of these. So we're going down, 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 and the same will happen. So let's do that. E, and the next line. Last one. So that's a good way to read it. Because often you look at it, you think, oh, so many sounds, but then it explains it, and this is how it was created. So one more thing. So is the tongue. So starting with, again, with E. Oh, no hand, sorry. This time going across. So we're going across with all of them. And the tongue, the shape of the tongue. So if we say tree, the tongue is flat in the mouth. The tongue is flat. E, E, O, U. The tongue goes back. Every time you say another sound, the tongue goes back in the mouth. So it starts flat and goes back. So let's do that again. E, E, O, U. So you can feel your tongue going back. The next line. O. Same thing. Tongue is going back in the mouth. The last line. Feel the tongue going back. So with these three different ways to read it, it helps students a lot to find what is their mouth doing when they're making these sounds. Because if you don't have your mouth in the right position, you can't say the sound. Okay, we've just done that exercise there, and I'm going to give Mark the handout so you can see this, so if you forget. So, in English we have 8 diphthongs, which are basically double sounds, double vowel sounds. And then we have the consonant sounds, so they're all on this. The diphthongs are here, and the consonant sounds are underneath. And again, they're in different colours. So this chart was created by Adrian Underhill, who is an expert on pronunciation. You can buy his book. Maybe some of you are familiar with his book, but he is really fantastic. In his book, he has many, many activities you can do to improve pronunciation. So with the vowel sounds, some are voiced and others are unvoiced. And so with the voiced ones, so if you just hold your hand to your throat and you're saying these like b, b, dog, dog, jam, jam, go, go. And you can feel it. If you can't feel your voice box vibrating, then you haven't said it properly. And I know with Arabic speakers, I don't think it's the same with Farsi speakers, but with the p and the b, they have a lot of problems. So the b is voiced and the p is not. And then with, so the other voiced ones are the v, and they're all voiced. So if they're voiced, if you can feel your voice box vibrating, you have said it correctly. So for the unvoiced ones, one way is to get a piece of paper and hold the piece of paper in front of your mouth. So everyone tried that same sound. And the paper should move. Yeah, that's exactly. If you're hearing it, like voice, you're not saying
That's it.
and every time can practice that with your students, and it's quite fun too. I think getting them to try and say the sounds properly is a lot of love. Okay, so we've just done this with the voiced and unvoiced. Okay, difficulties that Farsi speakers make. Okay, some sounds don't exist in Farsi. I hope all this is correct because I got it from a couple of academic articles by Farsi academics. But yeah, some sounds don't exist, like the w sound and the n sound and the and schwa sound. So because these sounds don't exist, these are the most difficult for Farsi speakers. So you might get different things like think, and in an IELTS test, people say, I think a lot. I think, and then if you're saying, I think, you're making so many mistakes. So these words are, these sounds, particular sounds, there are not that many of them, but it's very important to try and perfect these sounds. Because as I said, if you have been learning English for 6 years, and then you have learnt these mistakes, they're called fossilised errors. And it's very hard to change once you're in the habit of saying those sounds in the wrong way. So, yes, work and verb, sing and sin often, and then often you hear zen or den, about or about. So, in the ship and sheep, some short vowels are replaced by long vowels. So, ship, sheep, and again, so ship, ship, sheep, ship. And it's very important with certain sounds because you can actually say some bad words if you don't say it properly, like sheep. Sheets on the bed. So let's start with that one. I'm going to say it. So you have to really watch it. Another one is speech. I like a good speech. Speech. And if you don't say that properly, another one. So you have to be careful. Okay, so, and the diphthongs are difficult as well. The hour sound. So, and consonant clusters started sometimes. Speakers want to put a vowel in front. Started. So we're going to, and now we're going to do YouTube. So, would you mind just So, using online resources again, it's great to use YouTube. And this is a link from this man called Dave Skonda, who makes it quite funny with the pronunciation. So I think it's quite humorous, and I think the students would enjoy it. Because it's good to have a little bit of humour, a bit of fun in the classroom, apart from just, the process of learning grammar, vocabulary. Yeah, so to have a bit of fun. But this is quite cool. I'll just let you listen to this.
Today, for more information on that, we go to our live report.
Welcome to EnglishMeeting.com Campus Update for today. My name is Dave Skonda. Here's what's happening. Current news. The vowel sound E is causing problems around the world. People are confused, sometimes irritated, annoyed. Fortunately, through international research from top scholars and our work on Mars, we have devised a cure. Yes, there is hope. You will become stronger, faster, smarter, more attractive. Or maybe you will just improve your pronunciation. Yeah, that's it, no more. Just pronunciation. Okay, E, you gotta smile real big when you practice this. You can never be sad when you practice E. Here's some common mistakes. Deep is not fit. Feet is not equal to fit. Keep is not kip. I want to kip it. No, there's no word kip. Stretch your mouth and the sound. Keep. I want to keep it. Then people will know what you mean, what you're trying to say. Here's some more. Meet is not knit. Meet is not knit. And seat does not equal sit. You say, if you say, nice to meet you, nice to meet you. No, it's not nice to meet you because there's no word in it. It's nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. Whoa, whoa, what's going on? Hello! Hi. Okay, now let's try the sound at the beginning of the word. So let's start with each. Each. Not pitch. Pitch. I would like each one. Each one is terrific. No, pitch. Each one is good. No. Then we have eat. Eat. I would like to eat that good food with you. Not pitch. I would like to eat it. No. Not going to work. You got it. Good, good, good. See you later. Bye-bye. Okay, so now we're going to try it at the middle of the word. The first word is please. Can you please help me learn English? Not please. Can you please? Please? No. Please. Then leave. Leave. Please don't leave me. Not live. Are you going to live? Are you going to leave? That's pretty good. But please, don't leave me. Are you leaving me? Where are you going? You're going somewhere. Hey, wait, come back, come back. Don't leave. The sound at the end of the word. Indeed, indeed. So we have E, like in the word key. I have a key for you. Would you like your key? Not key. I have a kit for you. Kit. You want your kit? No, I don't want my kit. I want my key. How about free? If you learn English well, you will feel free. Not Fred. Fred? Am I Fred? I'm not Fred. Are you Fred? Are you Fred? Oh, here we go. Whoa. That was wild. Okay, now what we're going to do is sentences. And sentences are so important because that's what conversation, speaking, is all about. Okay, so here we go. I want to greet her politely when we meet next week. That would be wrong to say, I want to greet her politely when we meet next week. As a native speaker of English, I'd be like, not quite sure what you said there. Okay, here's another one. I want to keep my feet very strong. Now that's a strange thing to say, but it's good for practice. I want to keep my feet very strong. Not, I want to keep my feet very strong. It would be confusing. Okay, here we go. Another sentence here. That idea is very deep. Wow. I need to take a seat. Okay? That idea is very deep. Wow. I need to take a seat. Not, that idea is very big. Wow. I need to take a sip. Don't be so good that way. But you know that, right? Did you know that? I hope you know that. Okay, maybe I'm back. I'm kind of boxed in here, but I think I'll be all right. Don't forget to exaggerate when you practice. Remember, we're changing the human mind. The human mind doesn't want to change, but if you exaggerate, it's going to make more of a strong impact on your mind. Take what you've learned and use it in conversation. This is key. This is key. Real practice. Okay, you can do many things. You can do language exchange, join a group. I don't know, book club, exercise group. Invite someone for coffee, for tea. Have a drink, have a martini. Offer to help someone you know who speaks English. Nothing wrong with helping somebody. Many ways to do this. Many ways. Just don't worry or feel embarrassed if you make a mistake or if you misunderstand. That's part of the language learning process. If you make a mistake, just laugh at yourself. Enjoy your life. Okay? Get stoned up. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye. See ya. I think I'm going. Am I leaving now? I don't know. Oh, here I go. Whoa. Bye.
That is some cool stuff. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us for this edition of Campus Update. I'm Mark S. Allen. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, so I really like that because it's quite humorous, and when he says the wrong word, you can see how mispronunciations can happen. So yeah, I think the students would love that too. And as he said, to exaggerate. If there's a word you're a little bit worried about, like I'm going to the beach, so just try and focus and exaggerate the sound until you get used to it. And then it becomes easier. Thank you. So there are a couple of others. We won't do them all. There's another one on the E sound and others, consonant clusters, but we can see that later. I've got the, as I said again, I've got the links here so you can have a look at these later. So minimal pairs. So we need to practice these minimal pairs because if you say it incorrectly, you're saying a completely different word, as you can see. Meat, in the picture, meat and meat are completely different words, so it can cause confusion in understanding. Itch, itching is completely different. Eat, it, leave, live, grit, grit, need, knit. Someone has knits in their head, it's very different to need, so it can be quite humorous. Sit, sit, and fit, fit. So they can create completely different words if you mispronounce a sound. And this is one of the sounds that, according to the academics I've read, Farsi speakers have difficulties with. So we are going to do an activity. So if I can have some helpers. So that's student.
Excuse me? Miss. Great. I don't know, let's check it. We don't have more, but it should be. There is no word. They are not words. But great. It doesn't look like we have it. Very small pieces of sand also. Mental toughness and courage. Great. Yeah, okay. Give our memorating sound.
Student A and B, please don't show each other. Don't show each other, so keep it in your partner. So the way is, student A goes first and says, alright, student B, please write these words. So student A says meat. Student B writes down meat. Should write M-E-E-T. Then grit. Grit. So student B writes the words, and then after you check that they're correct. So if the person said meat properly, it should be M-E-E-T. If they said mit, you would have written M-I-T, which is incorrect. And then you swap, and then student B will read them to student A, need, leave, etc. Okay, so do that.
Yeah, read them to me. I'm gonna write them. Okay. Great. Great? Yeah. Okay. Knit. Knit? Eat. Fit. Seed. Seed. Need. It. Cheek. Cheek? Yeah. Sick. Sick. Okay. Let's see. Let's check it. Meat. Yeah. Let's meet. It is meat. It's meat. Meat. Oh yeah. So you were wrong. Yeah. Okay, great. Great. Knit. Knit is fit. Feed. Eat. Fit. Seed. Eat. Check. You said. Okay, that's correct. Yeah. Cheek. Cheek too. Yeah, that's it. Sick. I just say check. Okay, yeah. Sick. Leave. Yeah. Meet. No. Met.
Met.
Yeah. Check. 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 It is eat. Greet. Itch. See. Live. Live. Sit. Let's see, yeah. Read them again. First, need. Yay.
Met.
Met. Chick. I said chick. Chick. Oh, I corrected it. Yeah.
Chick.
You're right. But it is chick. It is a short E, not
short
E.
E.
I said chick.
Chick.
It is chick.
This is cheek. This is
It is chick. Yeah.
okay. This is check. And this is and that's check.
Yeah, got it. It is A, and I said A, but it is E. Short E. Yes.
Check.
Okay, next one. Yeah. Great. Yeah, that's it.
To the back. So and
No, that's the lens. The lens,
the tongue goes back further with the off.
the lens. There is no difference in lens.
Length of the pronunciation.
No, length of the sound.
So,
But
for
the
example,
tongue
we say
goes back.
boss here, boss. Boss? No, boss.
Boss.
US.
Oh, bus. Yes, bus.
Boss. Here,
Bus.
closer to the frontal part.
Yes.
This one, not this one. The difference between this one and this one. This one is this one.
Bus. Boss.
Boss.
Oh.
So closer to your glottal is your boss.
Back.
This is this one, yeah?
Yes.
This is this
Oh,
one and this
yes,
one.
that's right.
Boss.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Just need to practice. Yes.
This doesn't exist in American English, does it? In American English they say hot.
Yeah, that's right.
Just like
Yes.
like
Some of them are
just like
different.
this
And if you
one.
go online and you go to Google and you put American IPA,
Yeah.
you will get the American chart, and then you can click on all the words.
How do you pronounce this in British?
Oh, it's just
Hot.
hot. Oh, as in hot.
It's shorter than this one.
Shorter, yes, it's short, yes.
But what's the difference between these two then?
Yeah, so this is
Much shorter.
no, the same length. But in the the tongue is further back in the mouth. Yeah.
Here,
So
hot.
yes.
British.
Yes.
Hot.
And also the is here and the is here. So the mouth goes in and the tongue goes back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very good.
But it'd be great to get that online and practice those sounds, especially the diphthongs if you're having problems. Just go to Google and do IPA British
Phonemic.
phonemic alphabet and it'll come up. There's many, not just Macmillan, but there are many different sites that have the pronunciation. Thank you. Another one I'll give him on the sound, I think, so he can give those to you. Okay, so just as Dave Skonda did in the video clip, it's good to take a video clip and then follow on from what he said, because he has captured the student's interest. So just getting students to repeat these. I want to greet her politely when we meet. So just going through those, and that sort of follows on from him. There are many other phonological features in English pronunciation, and these features are what IELTS examiners are listening for in order to assess pronunciation. It's not just sounds, particular sounds. There are a lot of other features of pronunciation that makes a fluent speaker who is speaking with good pronunciation. One of them is chunking, what we call chunking words together, groups together, to make that makes sense. So if I said, I went to beach, that's not chunking, that's staccato, and that's not good. So if I said, I went to the beach and I had a swim. So I went to the beach, those words are chunked together, and I had a swim. I had a swim. Those words are chunked together. So this is very important in pronunciation to get the flow of the language, the rhythm of the language, to be able to chunk the words together in meaningful groups. So, and then intonation, as you know, is the rise and fall of language, and this is like a higher feature of pronunciation. Rhythm, the flow of the speech. In rhythm, English is a stress-timed language, and Farsi is a syllable-timed language. So sometimes we can get a little bit of this. When I was in Isfahan, we were staying with some friends, and the woman had a PhD from Australia, and her English was fantastic, and her husband, his English wasn't quite as good, and he was speaking like this very staccato syllable, and I could see from the Farsi it was a syllable, he was speaking each syllable, and he didn't have the rhythm or the flow of the language. So as he becomes more fluent, hopefully he will improve with that. We're going to do some work on that in an exercise on that. Word stress is important. Like if I said cinema, cinema. So cinema, the stress is on the first syllable. Or if I said potato, potato, the stress is on the middle syllable. So this is important too, because I think a lot of Farsi speakers often stress the first syllable, and sometimes the word comes out with different meaning, or it doesn't sound, it's not easy to understand. Sentence stress is also important, so the content words are stressed. Like, I went to the beach and I had a swim. So beach is important, and I had a swim. So the words, the sentence stress, the particular word in the sentence that are stressed, is also a feature of higher level pronunciation. And delivery is important in an IELTS text, like avoiding pauses, avoiding ums and ers is very important, as I mentioned before, and long pauses. As I said, the content doesn't matter so much. It's more important to speak. Just keep speaking. And don't pause to think of some content, because the examiner doesn't really care what you're going to say. They just care about listening to your fluency, vocabulary, grammar, pronunciation. And repetitions, try to avoiding hesitations and repetitions. Although if you make a mistake, telling the students to, yes, do repeat and correct, self-correct, but otherwise try and avoid repeating the same thing. Okay, so here are some rules. There are many rules, but one of the rules is most two-syllable nouns and adjectives place a stress on the first syllable, like present, export, object, suspect, project, insult. So it's the first syllable that's stressed, and then most two-syllable verbs place the stress on the second syllable. So you can change the meaning of the word, but they're very important. Present, export, object, suspect, project, insult. So, just a little activity with your partner now. So tell your partner, first of all, in class you would get the students to repeat those, of course. And then just now, as a little activity, get your partner using the above words as a noun and a verb in the same sentence. For example, I will present a birthday present to my friend on Saturday. So if you could just think of one or two sentences using some of these words. Okay?
The word export as a noun and the export as a verb. So the example that I can remember is I want to export a lot of export to another country. What about you?
Let's continue with object.
Yeah, object and object.
Yes. I object having that object having meaning for study.
Okay, that's good. Suspect and suspect. So, when I saw him, I suspected that he has found some suspects for the crime that has been taking place.
Nice.
Project and project.
In this project, the tutor projected some issues about this problem.
Now, insult and insult. Well, when we had a fight, my friend insulted me with an insult.
Nice.
However, you know, the words that you
I think all is done.
Look, you can make another example for export and import.
Let's change it. Illegal exports are objected to be exported.
Oh, so you combine two sentences together. Okay, so in the next presentation, I'm going to project the pictures of the suspects that I have suspected to be involved in the project.
Thank you. Okay, that's it.